We do have indeed two Republicans. Congressman Peter King is in New York, and Congressman Matt Salmon joins us from his district in Phoenix. So let me just go to you. I'll go to you first, Congressman King. What's your reaction to what you heard from Senator Reid here this morning?
Actually, Bob, I was very disappointed because I thought the days of government shutdowns were behind us, and just the whole implication there with Senator Reid is when you basically said to him, are you going to pass the omnibus appropriation bill? And he sort of hesitated, somehow sending out a threat of maybe shutting down the government or slowing down the process. That's the wrong attitude to have at the beginning of the year. We can have disagreements, but I think we have to find ways to compromise. I mean, on all the issues he was talking about, I think there's a possibility for compromise. But if he's going to be talking from day one or implying that there could be shutdowns, to me, that's the wrong way to start. It's the wrong message to send. And if something does happen, I think it can be traced right back to the show this morning, based on what Senator Reid said.
Oh, well, Congressman Salmon, what's your reaction?
Well, I think it's interesting that Senator Reid spent his entire time just blaming Republicans for everything, every calamity in the world, and not really offering any solutions. I think that's why the American people think that the Congress is so dysfunctional, because it's just partisan politics. Honestly, I think we deserve better. And if Senator Reid is that interested in improving the economy and in helping us get jobs again, maybe he could just take up at least one of the 39 bills, jobs-related bills that we've sent from the Republican House to the Senate, which languishes in his drawer. The fact is, these giveaway programs, government programs, don't create one job, not one job. If we want to energize the job market, we need to get rid of backbreaking, job-breaking regulations and our tax policy that is hurting our economy.
Well, let me just ask you, Mr. Salmon, what about this extending the unemployment benefits? He does make the point, and economists back this up, that some of this unemployment insurance that is paid out does go back into the economy. It's not all a giveaway. I mean, when you obviously it's a big cost, a big ticket item, $26 billion for a year, but some of it does get back into the economy. Will you support that in some fashion?
If the senator comes up with any kind of a reasonable idea to offset the $26 billion, I think that he might find some people that are willing to talk to him. But I think that we need to focus our attention more on not what the problem itself, but focus on the root cause, and that is unemployment. Let's get people back to work. Let's approve the Keystone Pipeline. Let's deal with one of the 39 jobs bills that we've sent him to try to get our economy going again and people working in the private sector.
All right, well,
the answer isn't government. The answer is the private sector. Let's get it going again.
Congressman King, do you see any kind of a compromise that could be struck to continue at least some part of this unemployment insurance for these people?
Yeah, I agree with what Matt said about cutting back on the regulations and trying to unleash the economy in the private sector. I would, however, want to support an extension of unemployment benefits, at least to some extent, for a brief period of time. And only speaking for myself, I'm not saying it has to be offset dollar for dollar, but there has to be some compromise coming from the Democrats. I don't want to have this permanent state of unemployment insurance where we end up like Europe. On the other hand, there are people who are looking for work, who need some help. So I would like to find a way to get a compromise to extend unemployment insurance, at least for a brief period of time. But at the same time, the Democrats should make compromise as far as some burdensome regulations to attempt to unleash the economy, because the ultimate answer is not unemployment insurance. The ultimate answer is more jobs. But for a temporary period of time, I could see an extension of unemployment benefits, but again, with the restrictions on it, so we don't have a permanent class of people on unemployment insurance, and it doesn't become an impediment to jobs, and it doesn't create a state of dependency.
Let me ask both of you, do you think there is any chance that raising the minimum wage will happen this year, Mr. Salmon?
Well, first of all, I think that the raising of the minimum wage actually hurts the very people we're trying to help. If the Obama administration wants to raise the minimum wage to $10 an hour, and I don't believe, again, that's the government is the answer. I believe that the answer is to
well, wait, can I just stop you and just ask you an obvious question? Why does it hurt someone to pay them more money? Because that's what you just said.
Well, I'll tell you how it hurts them. The people that are mostly on minimum wage are the folks that are 18 to 28. And those folks right now have the highest unemployment rate in the country by far, not even close. And history has shown us that when the minimum wage rises, those companies that are paying minimum wage jobs end up laying people off, and they end up hiring less people. And that's what I mean by them actually being the people that are hurt.
Gotcha. Mr. King, what do you think about it? Do you think we ought to raise the minimum wage?
I've supported it in the past, but for the last several years I've not, because when the economy is down the way it is, I think it's an extra burden that you're imposing on employers as they try to come out of the recession. I would again consider an increase in it, but it has to be coinciding with a cutting back on some of the burdens that are on employers, because otherwise, as Matt was saying, we could increase the minimum wage, but with more people being laid off. To me, we have to, again, if we can get to compromise, we can get things on the table where the Democrats are willing to give up some of these restrictions and burdens that are on businesses, then I'd be willing to consider somewhat of an increase in the minimum wage. But again, the ultimate answer is to allow the private sector to expand, and we're not going to do that so long as we keep adding regulation on top of regulation, and people like Senator Reid refuse to talk about lifting any of those regulations.
Let me ask you, Mr. Salmon.
Bob,
go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say that I have conversations with a lot of the Democrats on the floor, a lot of them very, very dear friends of mine, and they're as frustrated as I am with leaders like Harry Reid that just want to continue to push partisan agenda. They, like us, believe that there are answers, that we can cross the aisle and work together. But I think that the leadership has to come from the top. When I was in Congress before, we served with Bill Clinton as president. In fact, Peter King and I both served together during the 90s, and we were able to do all kinds of things. Trade policies that grew our economy, reducing the deficit. In fact, we balanced the budget for the first time in 40 years in '98.
Okay.
This president is a polarizing figure that does nothing but address a my way or the highway attitude. And until we have a president that's willing to reach across the aisle, it's going to be very, very difficult.
All right, we have to stop it there. The clock just ran out. We'll be back in 1 minute with a look at the history of Face the